Getting windows ready, not trying. Okay, bud, so we have to improvise for a minute. goodness, what the hell is going on?
So are we live? Good afternoon and welcome to this session of Wilmington City Council's Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting. I apologize, we've been having some technical difficulties here, but hopefully we're on our way now. There might have been some other people joined us in the meantime, but I believe with us is Councilmember Linda Gray from the 1st District, President of Council Hanifa Shabazz, Councilmember Ciro Adam at large, Councilmember Loretta Walsh at large. They're all committee members, and we're also joined by Councilmember Sam Guy at large. I know everybody's schedules are pretty hectic these days, and we have a full agenda, so we'll get right into it. The first item we have is a resolution to approve the lease agreement authorizing new Singular Wireless to install and operate wireless telecommunication facilities in the public right-of-ways of the city of Wilmington. Who can speak to this?
Excuse me, but you didn't recognize me.
I'm sorry. We've also been joined by Councilmember Santi Oliver, 3rd District, who is the Finance Committee member. Thank you.
And Bud, you also have me, Chris Johnson.
Chris Johnson from the 7th District. Chris is also a Finance Committee member. Thank you. Is there anyone else that I missed? All right.
Yes, yes, Yolanda in 6th District.
Yolanda McCoy is with us from the 6th District. Is there anyone else? Okay. Who is going to address the resolution with New Singular?
I am Commissioner of Public Works, Kelly Williams.
Hey, Kelly.
Good evening, Councilman Friel. This resolution is to request an approval of the license agreement between the city and New Singular Wireless to construct, install, maintain, and operate wireless telecommunication facilities in the public rights of way of the city. This equipment is part of New Singular's network for operation of the wireless communication services. The initial term of the license is 10 years, beginning September 17th, 2020, and shall continue thereafter until terminated by either party. The annual license fee for each individual node is $270 per node. Public Works is requesting that the committee approve this resolution so we can begin our 5G program.
Do we have other entities also under agreements now that provide similar services?
This is the first agreement that we've reached.
And this is strictly for the 5G?
Yes, exactly. So New Singular Wireless PCS is representing AT&T. And AT&T is the first to, work out an agreement with us.
Okay. Should we expect others in the near
Yes,
future?
absolutely.
Okay. Questions from council members? Mr. Guy, do you have your hand up? Hello? Mr. Guy? Okay, are there other council members with questions? I'm not seeing it. Okay, this is a resolution. It does not need to be voted out of this committee. It will go before the full council on Thursday, September 17th. All right.
Okay.
Next, we're going to have another resolution to authorize and approve a license agreement between the City of Wilmington and Holland Mulch, Inc. regarding the use of a portion of 475 Hay Road for the storage of yard waste and the conversion of yard waste into mulch. Kelly, are you going to handle this one too, or is there somebody there with you?
I am, that's me.
Okay.
So this resolution approves a 5-year license agreement with 5 one-year renewal options between the city and Holland Mulch, Inc. Holland Mulch will use a portion of 475 Hay Road, which is our wastewater treatment plant, to store yard waste and convert it into mulch. In return for the use of our land, Holland will accept and dispose of all of the city's yard waste at its full cost and expense, a service which has a monetary value of approximately $112,500 per year.
That's the gross monetary value before they actually deduct their expenses and everything.
So the $112,500 a year is basically what it costs Public Works to dispose of yard waste.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So essentially, they'll take our yard waste, make it into mulch, and we save a significant amount of money.
Okay. So we can assume in next year's budget, we're going to see a savings.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes. Theoretically, if this gets approved, yeah. Although because of the storms, we've
Understood. Okay. Questions for council members?
Hello?
Mr. Guy, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a question on this?
I had a question on the last one.
Well, I'm sorry. I did call your name several times, but we moved on.
Well,
So-
my thing was unmuted, so that means somebody there had me muted. But go ahead and move on. But my point, I'll raise it at the council meeting.
Okay.
My question was, what are the additional benefits that are being provided to the community? So they can answer that later.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have a question about the mulch resolution?
No, thank you.
President Shabazz, question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So are they already doing mulch manufacturing there, and this is just going to expand, or this is going to be a new process they're starting at this location?
So they're already in the mulch business in the city, but they were not able to take our waste, our yard waste, because they didn't have enough space. So this allows them to take our yard waste and gives them the space that they need to go ahead and do that for free for us.
If I may ask a follow-up question.
Sure.
So where's their current location?
So, that's a good question. They, I believe, are, I'd have to look it up on a map and let you know.
Is it the mulch company that's behind Barbara Hicks Park in Southbridge?
I don't believe that it's the same, no.
Okay.
But I'll have to check.
Okay, if you could advise me, I would appreciate it.
Sure. So the property that we're looking to use is a contaminated piece of property that the DEP generally won't allow any building on, but they will and have approved the allowance of using the site to set up yard waste.
Okay. Councilmember Walsh, did you have a question?
I did. My question was, so they in turn would sell this mulch?
Yes, yeah, if,
So don't we buy mulch?
we generally do not. We use a lot of our own mulch. Kevin Kelly in Parks Department may use a special type of mulch, but we in Public Works do not.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know.
Well, as a follow-up to her question though, if we need mulch, do we then have to buy it back from Holland?
That is not part, so yes, my understanding is yes, is the business deal would, the selling of the mulch is the same. Just the receiving of the yard waste is a significant benefit to us. I don't know how much mulch Parks Department purchases. That's something we can get back to you on. But the city water department and Public Works does not buy a significant amount. And, you know, we have chipping events in which we collect trees and use the chipper. And we reuse a lot of that wood for mulch.
So that wouldn't be included in this contract?
No.
Okay. Okay, any other questions from council members? Once again, this is a resolution. It does not need a vote by council, and I believe it'll be on the agenda September 17th. All right, thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. Next, we're going to jump into 4 ordinances that we have. The first one is Ordinance 02035, constituting an amendment to number 1 to the fiscal year 2021 operating budget, being an ordinance to amend substitute 1 to ordinance number 20-016 for body cameras. Ms. Washington, did you want to make some comments on this?
Yes, can you hear me first?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this operating budget ordinance provides funding for Wilmington Police Department body cam program. It adds 4 positions, a sergeant and 3 patrol officers. And that's at a total of $400,000. At the same time, we have money set to go, $542,000 for the purchase of the body cams and the contract that will support that program as well.
Okay, but the 542 is part of the grant request?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And so we have not heard back about the grant request yet. We anticipate on hearing something by mid-October or the end of October.
But there is a commitment that if the grant, once again, is denied, that we will come back then and budget the 542 out of budget reserve funds. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's our commitment.
Okay. And this will get you enough cameras to have every officer in the Wilmington Police Department have a camera?
Yes, it's 319 cameras.
Okay, that sounds like everybody.
Yes, it will outfit the entire department.
Okay. All right, questions from council members?
Yes, Chairman Friel, I don't have a raise hand icon anyplace.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, but I have a lot of questions. Okay, on this ordinance, this legislation, I read it, and there are like 18 other departments that are also getting increases. And I'm not really that concerned with all the other departments, but I'd like to, before I get to the police department, I'd like to go to city council, which is on page 3. Okay, and first I'd like to know, it says, in each of these categories, there's a column that says city, and then there's a column that says special, and then there's a column that says total. Could you explain what those columns mean first?
Well, wait a minute, Ms. Gray, none of this has changed. The only thing changing is police department. This is all part of the fiscal year 2021 budget.
The way I read it, these are changes, but could you tell me, could you explain the titles then, the headings? City, special, and total? Every department has that title. Planning, treasurers, there are 3 columns. One says city, one says special, and one says total.
You know what that is?
Yeah, special means grant funds.
Grant funds. Can't even.
Where do we get some?
Special means grant funds, council member.
They have KPD.
Grant funds means from outside, it's not from the city's budget,
Yes.
correct?
first column is the
correct.
city budget. The second column is anything comes from the outside, like the TV funds that we get every year. And then obviously the total.
Okay, so for city council, it says personal services. What are personal services?
Salaries.
So we're having a 57% increase?
That's great. None of this
Because-
is changing. This was all approved in the fiscal year 2021 budget. The only change we're making today
This
is
is,
for the police department. We're going to hit the budget reserve for 400,000 for the personnel, and we're also putting the money in there in hopes of getting the grant approved.
So nothing else in any of these departments on here has changed. This is all the same budget that we
This is all
approved.
part of the fiscal year 2021 budget, correct?
that's,
But there aren't
That's-
any changes in it except for the police. That's what I'm
The
asking.
police department.
that's correct.
Okay, so then my question then about the police department is that on something that Chief Tracy gave us before, he was he was asking for new officers and the average salary was 31,000, which added up to 62,000. This is something estimated cost for this was FY21 proposed budget follow-up information that I have. So with 4 new employees at 400,000, why the additional cost? Why so much more money than was asked for initially for new staff?
I think, Rob, you want to take that? She wants to know what's the additional cost that, I think that are you saying that the information you gave before was the salaries average 60,000? Is that what you're saying? Or why is it
They
totaling
averaged
400?
31,000 in a document that I have from Chief Tracy about the cost of additional employees. So now additional employees, 4 is costing 400,000, whereas 2 in this document costs 62,000. So that's an average of 31,000 a person. So why now are we having 400,000 for 4?
Chairman Friel, I have Rob Winkler from OMB.
Yeah, I don't have the document she's looking at, but I don't know where we would get a police officer for $31,000.
No.
No,
It
No,
says here
Yeah, I
funding to
can
add
speak
2
to that.
additional.
Wait, Winkler's on. Yeah, so I can speak to that. The base salary for a police officer, so that's a like step 1 police officer, is a bit under $54,000. So 3 of those plus a police sergeant plus the benefits is what gets you to the $400,000. I think the big thing that's not being included in that number that you have there is the benefits.
Okay. And the number I initially had, you're saying, that was given to me.
So the breakout between the two is around about $250,000 for salaries and about $150,000 for benefits.
Okay, thank you. May I continue?
Yes.
And the, we're signing a 5-year contract with the providers of the body cams, correct?
that contract has not come before council yet.
Okay, so the 500 some thousand being set aside has nothing to do with the contract with the body camera company.
It will include funding for the contract, but we have not introduced that contract yet to council. And
Okay, and
when we do so, it'll come back before the finance committee and I can go in deeper discussion then.
Okay,
I have
my only
some.
other question is, are we receiving, since it's a 5-year contract we're signing, are we receiving all of the cameras in year 1 or the cameras being dispersed over 5 years?
I'm not sure. I think someone here is from the Wilmington Police Department, probably better suited to answer that question.
Chairman Frill, Chief Robert Tracy.
Chief.
Yes, they would all be in year 1 that we would have the 319 cameras.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council members at this time?
Question.
Mr. Guy.
Yes. Okay, one problem that we have here is that Councilman Congo and Councilman Turner originally introduced body cam legislation before council, and this committee held those two pieces of legislation. So I don't know how it is that those pieces are being held and another piece has been slid in and basically stolen their legislation and put somebody else's name on as a sponsor. Who are the sponsors of this piece we're talking about today?
I'm the lead sponsor.
Who else is on it as a sponsor?
Co-sponsor is President Shabazz.
Okay, so that's improper for you all to take the other councilman's legislation.
I did not
They
take,
gave you their permission.
let me explain. I did not take the other council members' legislation when the fiscal year 2020 ended and fiscal year 2021 started. I checked with both the administration and council to see if anyone had stepped forward requesting new legislation, and I was told no. And I said, well, we need to get started on this because there were public statements made that we were gonna institute a body camera program. So as far as I know, they did not ask to have the legislation done for fiscal year 2021.
Well, you know that you have their legislation held, so they could have amended it. And I'm just saying, that's what you did, and we'll move
Yep,
forward with
that's
that.
right,
So
yep.
you two guys did that.
Yep.
Next point. The camera purchase, as I see it, is being held hostage because the most important piece of legislation is the purchase of the body cameras. Because Chief Tracy admitted to us quite a long time ago that all he has to do is reassign 4 or 5 people. So hiring new people is not a prerequisite. It's more of a game of we'll hold this up as a way to get 5 extra people. This program should have been operating probably 6 months ago. Also, I noticed that the companion piece that Councilman Congo and Councilman Turner put in that relates to the purchase of the body cams. There's no companion piece on here now, and theirs has not yet been released from this committee. And that's an authorization to make a purchase. It's not a requirement to make a purchase. So the game that's been played for the last 6 months is to not allow authorization for the purchase of the body cameras. Because if we went on and purchased the body cameras, we already have the money available in the current budget. There's nothing that needs to change in the current budget to pay for the body cameras. Nothing. There's no requirement of adding people. All we need to do is authorize the purchase of the cameras. And furthermore, we were told that there was a union problem, but nobody said a word about a union problem yet today. Nobody said a word about a resolution of a union problem. So that was all fake me out to hold this up. But somebody needs to speak to what the status is of that. In addition, the chief told us many months ago that he already had the regulations, et cetera, that are needed, the companion piece drafted, and they've never been shared with us. That was over 6 months ago that he said that, and they've never been shared with us. So where's the rules and regulations for the body camera? They need to be distributed. They're being held. This here is the secrecy games we play. So those are my comments.
Thank you. I'll make a couple comments first, and I'll turn it over to Tanny, the chief. First of all, it seems to me that since day one, this chief has stated that there would be an increase, there would be a need for increased personnel to run this program. And I don't think that's ever really changed. As far as the other contract, I think it is being updated. There might be some minor changes that have to be made to it before it comes back to council. But hopefully we're going to see it in the very near future, hopefully around the same time that we're getting word on the grant that we requested from the federal government. As far as the standard operating procedures, I'll let either Tanny or the chief comment on that. I believe they are in place. As far as releasing them, I'll let them answer that question.
Chief. Yeah, we do have, that's been quite some time since we've adopted the policies and procedures around body cams, but I'll let the chief speak to it in terms of releasing any information related to that.
Well, at this time, these policies were in draft. We've sent them over to the union. Director Charlotte Barnes has been the go-between as far as negotiating contract. So Director Barnes has shared them with the union to come back with some comments to make sure that when we get these cameras, everybody's in a place that everybody's in a comfortable place. And I don't think we're that far apart exactly what's in our draft policy and where we need to be to get this body worn camera program started.
Chief, once you have that agreement, will you be able to release the SOPs?
Yes, I should be able to release it just like we've released all the other things online.
Right.
Once it's looked at, the administrative board has to take a look at it as well, and then I would like to release it right away.
Right. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other questions from council members?
Follow up?
Well, let me see if anybody else has a question. Are there any other council members have questions? Mr. Adams?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So when we pass this or vote for this and council passes this thing, does that mean that they are going to sign a contract to purchase these cameras the next day?
No. What this
What
does,
does it mean then? When do we get the cameras and when is the contract being signed for the cameras?
okay. All this does is allocate the $400,000 out of budget reserves for the personnel. And it also places in the budget money anticipating the grant. The next step, which I'm hoping we're going to see early October, will be the contract, I believe it's called Exxon, which will be for the purchase of the cameras. So we should be hearing from the grant provider also about the same time, so that everything will be coming together.
Now, what's confusing me here, okay, is that when you say we have a commitment for these cameras, and to me, a commitment means we sign a contract to purchase those cameras, okay? The funding of it, whether we get the grant or not, is actually independent of us signing that contract to purchase the cameras, because if we get the grant or not, we're still buying the cameras, right? So why aren't we signing the contract for the cameras when we approve this?
Once we have the new contract before us, we can approve it, and council can approve it, and then the administration can move forward with the purchase.
Can you please give me a date certain when we will have that contract in front of us to approve and have signed the next day?
Well, I don't know if we can have it approved. Well, we can have it approved at the meeting, and then sign. Tanny, when can we see the contract? When can we have the contract?
The introduction of the contract will be the first meeting in October.
It's October 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, and so we'd have a first and a second, I guess the second
First,
contract would be introduced the first week in October, and we can have a finance meeting and pass it on the second meeting in October?
Right, it'll be introduced the October 1st, first and second reading. We should be having a finance committee meeting that following Monday, which would be, I think, the 5th. And we voted out of committee, then it would go back before the council for the second meeting in October.
That's
okay.
All right.
Yeah, the 5th of October was my mother's birthday, so that would be an important day to make this thing go on that day, okay? So I'd appreciate that, and that we would vote to approve on the second meeting in October.
Right.
Okay, Mr.
That's
Fields,
correct.
if we can hold that schedule, I'd be okay with it. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Good evening, Chief Tracy. I know we've talked about body cameras in committee before, and I just want to see are there any updated studies from any local or national police organizations regarding body cameras and the effect on public safety or violent crime?
Chairman Friel, I'm just curious to start answering this question on, just to defer to the chair.
Yes, sir. You can answer the question. Yes.
Great. Only the literature that has been given. I haven't seen any recent studies, Councilman Johnson, but you know, there's different aspects of what builds community trust. I've shared them with council about what the cameras really can build public trust. A lot of that legwork has to be done in person, community meetings, a lot of things that we're doing. That being said, community wants the cameras. Our officers want the cameras. I prefer to have the cameras. So, you know, the studies are a mixed bag of results, whether positive or any effect on building public trust, but it seems to be what everybody prefers. And I think moving forward on it will be a good thing for the city of Wilmington.
Okay, and Chairman Friel, may I ask a follow-up?
Yes.
Okay, so Chief Tracy, thank you for sharing that with me. So essentially, the investment in body cameras is an investment in building community trust. It's not a tool per se to reduce gun violence, right?
So, and one thing, Councilman Johnson, part of the grant that we're getting, if we're successful in the grant that we're talking about and waiting on, that also will be a study to see the results that it's having on the effect of crime. So part of the grant is to study the body-worn cameras, and you know, goes hand in hand with a consultant that is hired as part of this grant. And I'm not sure if you just had a follow-up question. You broke up. Was there a follow-up question, Councilman?
No, that answers it. They answered. I'm just really trying to get the scope of the focus of the program. So it seems like the program is focused on building community trust, but it's a gun violence reduction tool within that as well, correct?
I wouldn't say it's a body-worn cameras. I don't think it will have an effect on how we do good police work, and then with working with the rest of the criminal justice system, as far as making sure we keep some people with legal firearms off the street, not to get back out again and commit crimes. Body-worn cameras, I'm not too sure that'll have an effect. What it will have an effect on is overall morale. The officers want to have it, the community wants to have it, and I think if there's a perception that can build trust, or it's a reality, we'll find out. I just think it's a good thing, and you know, we're in the 21st century, and they're using cameras now for replay in sports. They're using it in a lot of things to study. It actually can even help us out to make sure that what we're doing, we can evaluate events that are happening immediately to see if there's any additional training for our officers. Even if everything's going right, we can still use it as a tool.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief Tracy.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gray, did you have some additional questions? Councilmember Gray, did you have some additional questions?
Thank you, but I think Chief Tracy covered it. I was going to say, besides morale, there's the possibility that cameras are used to see how officers are also doing their job and to see if there can be any improvement there. So it's a two-way street if it's used that way, but the Chief Tracy addressed that, so thank you.
All right. Any other questions from council members?
Follow up.
Mr. Guy?
Okay, so at the end of the day, body cameras capture information with respect to what has taken place at a certain location at a certain time. And that information can be helpful in a lot of ways. And I think there's plenty of research and articles and literature that show the various ways that information has been used. And probably in the future, people will find new ways to use the information that's collected. question that I have, one of them is on the issue of the authorization of cameras. There's absolutely no reason, as I see it, for us not to know how many cameras we're ordering. So am I correct that that number is known? 319, is that what was said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if we know how many we're ordering, then there's no excuse for the legislation authorizing the purchase to not already have been introduced as soon as the number was known. Because we're not talking about making the purchase, we're talking about authorizing the purchase. Once it's authorized, then you can immediately make the purchase. And when I say immediately, it's clear cut. Everybody knows the money is in the budget right now. There's nothing needed other than to sign the contract, to purchase them, and to make the payment out of the money that's available in the budget. But we're playing a little game of wait and see, which delays everything. So if next week somebody gets shot and we don't have the body camera evidence, it's because it's been played with for 6 months, but that's what we're doing. So there's no reason for the authorization legislation not to been on here today. And in fact, Councilman Congo and Councilman Turner already introduced that legislation, which all it would have to have been was amended. But I'm quite sure that the plan is for somebody to steal it. The next item, this grant application. Okay, we authorized this grant to be filed. What the chief did not do, as far as I know, is did not distribute a copy of the grant application to the authorizing body, which is City Council. So, as I've said repeatedly, we need to see these grant applications. So when is the chief going to get us the grant application?
Chief, could we have access to the grant application? Are you there with us?
Council, yeah, I am, Chairman Friel. Right now, we have to go through the Criminal Justice Council to go to the federal government to apply for this grant. Right now, through the Criminal Justice Council and the federal government, BJA, Bureau of Justice Assistance, this information they have, they own. So to get that information, you have to get permission from BGA as far as bringing that out. And we've talked to them about this, and there's some issues that they have about sharing this type of information. And I had the inspector, Ash, who's with me right now in the room, I had her follow up. So Inspector Ash, could you go back? You had the conversation with BGA as far as releasing this and some of the restrictions that we have as a grant applier.
Correct. So based off of the BGA, their system called eGrants, which is an electronic system that we or an agency would apply for the grant. That is a system that they own, and those are electronic documents that are contained within their system. The document is not final and it's in a draft format until it is accepted into the eGrant system by BGA. In this particular instance, as we've discussed in prior council meetings, the proper protocol, since we are technically not the applicant, WPD is not the applicant, the Criminal Justice Council of Delaware is the applicant, and we are a sub-recipient of that. So the application is filed by the Criminal Justice Council into the eGrant system and forwarded to the BGA. So it would either be a request to the Criminal Justice Council to provide a copy of the application, or to the BGA to ask for a copy of that grant. But we are not technically the applicant. The Criminal Justice Council is.
Okay, now we passed a resolution authorizing you to apply for this grant that everybody keeps telling us, wait for the grant, wait for the grant. But if I just heard you correctly, we don't have an application pending for a grant.
We do. So Councilman, we do have a application pending. The Criminal Justice Council applied for the grant on our behalf, where we would be the sub-recipient of that grant. So that is the announcement that will be coming out, we believe, in beginning of October or end of the month in October. But it is not information that we can release because we're not the technical applicant to the BGA.
All right. All right, let's move on. President Shabazz, did you have a question?
I said I wasn't finished.
I didn't hear you say that, but they answered your question.
I'm not finished. That's what the committee meeting's for.
They answered your question. What else do you have?
I'm not finished.
What else do you have?
Okay. So now on the policy, how can the policy be sent over to the police, sent to the police, and we haven't seen the policy? Council has not seen the draft policy. So what happens in almost every community is that there's different provisions in the policy, and the community is part of that conversation, and so is the legislative branch. So before you send anything over to the police, it's as if the police department and the police are having secret negotiations about the policy. No, that policy should be known, because like I need a copy of the policy so I can send it to the civil rights organizations that I work with for them to check against the checklist to see if there's any topics that are missing or if there's any topics that are included that are of question. So we haven't had any internal conversation because we don't have internal conversation and we don't have transparency. So that, whatever that is that was sent over to the police, council members need to have that. So when will we get the policy that has now been distributed to the police, but not distributed to the council? We need a copy of that right now, at least I do, so my people can get to work.
It is my understanding that we will see the policy once they have an agreement with the union.
Well, that's not.
That's what I heard.
That's what you heard, but I'm just saying that they need to change that. So I'm asking whoever it is that has the copy to send me a copy of it. So is that going to be accommodated by either the police chief or the administration so that I can get my people to work in civil rights and law enforcement to see whether this is a policy? This could be a policy that is to the detriment of the citizens of Wilmington.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be no secret private agreement. So am I going to be provided a copy of whatever was sent over to the police sometime?
Mr. Guy, you can send your request to the chief and to the chief of staff, and I'll let them.
Well, I just made the request here.
And now
you're getting into you're going into your mode. They need.
I'm not going into my mode. I'm here trying to talk about a budget amendment to buy some cameras, and you're getting into all these other areas. Right now, the agenda item is $400,000 for personnel so we can institute a body camera program. That's all we should be talking about right now.
Yeah, well, you all have a secret agreement, and the rest.
I don't have any agreement with anybody. I don't have any secret agreements with anybody.
Is the chief and the administration, are you sending a copy of the proposed policy that you sent to the police? Are you sending it to the legislative branch?
I told you, send them a request for the policy.
No, you need to have them answer, but you're.
No, I don't have to make them answer.
Okay, so we'll just deal with it the way it need to be dealt with, because you're trying to pull.
Fine. Do you have any other questions about the budget amendment?
Yes, you need to provide the policy.
Do you have any other questions about the budget amendment?
The budget amendment is going to be impacted on whether you guys have a secret agreement on the policy. That you notice that the chief of police and administration
All right, Mr. Guy,
haven't responded.
I told you to go ahead and send them your request. Do you have
I just
anything
gave
else
them my
on the
request.
budget amendment?
Yeah, I just gave them my request.
All right, thank you, sir. President Shabazz.
Yes, I wanted to make a motion to move ordinance 20-035 out of committee to be heard before the full body.
I thank you, but I'm going to need to at least open up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Is there any there, Michelle? I can't see. No? Okay. All right. At this point, I'll accept the motion to move ordinance 20035, Constituting Amendment number 1 to fiscal year 2021 operating budget. Amendment substitute number 1 to ordinance number 20016 for body cameras out of this committee to the full council for a vote on October 1st.
Second.
Been moved and seconded on the question. All the committee members in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed from the Finance Committee? Okay. Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 20039, amended Chapter 2 of the City Code regarding the term of the city's active depository M&T Bank. Mr. Guy, this is, I believe, is your ordinance. Mr. Guy, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here. This just extends them 2 more years. They're currently the depository.
One quick question. In one of your whereas clauses, you talk about the reason for just extending this and not doing competitive bid is because of the COVID-19. Is that correct? Mr. Guy, is that correct? Well, I do have a question. I don't know if the chief of staff is there. Because of COVID-19, are we doing no competitive bidding at all right now, or?
No, we're still continuing with the competitive bidding process. So I am
All done
unsure
virtual,
as
right? I mean, people can
Yes.
get their stuff online, right? Okay.
That's correct.
All right. So I guess I'm just trying to understand, Mr. Guy, why we weren't able to do this as a competitive bid. She's still with us. Mr. Guy. Is he still with us? Mr. Guy, did you hear my question?
Question, I said, they need to say, if they want to do competitive bid, I will hold it. So it's up to the administration. If you want to do a competitive bid, go ahead and do it, and I'll hold this. I don't have, M&T doesn't give me donations or nothing. So I don't have no dog in the game. So what is the administration? Do you want to post it?
Chairman Frill.
Yes.
Typically with the bank depository, there's a bank selection committee, which includes not only the treasurer's office, but participants from city council and the administration. And we go over the bids as a group and bring that selection before city council. So that's, I would just recommend that we go back to the bank selection committee process that we've always used in the past.
Okay.
So go ahead and hold the legislation
Well,
and go ahead and do that.
Is the current agreement expired then?
No, they're going to be the depository until a new one is identified.
Okay.
So
All
you
right.
can go ahead and hold this, and then they
Okay,
can
we'll
go through that.
we'll
They can
hold
go
that.
through that process.
Okay, we will hold that one. All right, next.
Councilman Guy, I don't know if you all can hear me. Councilman Guy, Deputy Treasurer from the Treasurer's Office with
Call.
Treasury perspective. If the chair and the sponsor would like input on that.
Go ahead, Mr. Cole. Do you have a comment you want to make, or?
I know it's Councilman Guy's ordinance. I'm not sure if his preference is to hold it. I don't want to.
Well, he's already held it. We've already held it.
Yeah, they've insisted that they want to go through a lot of things we're doing differently. But if they're saying that they want to go through the process, then they can go through the process and I'll just hold it.
Okay, so we held it, and you can have, Mr. Cole, you can get with Mr. Guy and Ms. Washington and discuss this further, how you want to proceed. And we can have it on the next committee agenda. All right, next we have ordinance 20-041, to authorize and approve a contract between the City of Wilmington and Teladoc Health, Inc. for telehealth services. Is Ms. Barnes with us?
I am, however, Ms. Donnie Smith is going to take this piece of legislation. The
Okay.
benefit.
Ms. Smith, can you just walk us through this ordinance?
Sure. We have had a relationship with Teledoc, and we have been able to negotiate a 3-year contract to just continue the relationship. Excited that we've been actually able to hold the rate through the process of negotiating into the 3-year. So the contract amounts to approximately $30,000 per year, and we would be able to continue that relationship, fully covering all active employees, retirees, and their dependents through this contract.
Okay, does this contract expire at the end of this month?
Correct.
So then we would do an additional 3-year agreement with them and an option of 3 years or 3 1-year extensions. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Are you saying the rate, the $32,000 a year, is not going up?
Yes, that's correct. The most it would go up is by 5% based on Teladoc's overall book of business. But so far we're not anticipating that, but that 5% increase would take it from $1.99 per person per month to $2.09 per person per month.
This agreement expires at the end of this month. Was that a 3-year agreement?
No, it was not.
1 year?
Yes.
Okay. And you're happy with their service?
Yeah, it's been actually really fantastic. The city had actually started telemedicine before in 2018, and we've been slowly growing the program. The program actually really pays for itself. So every time somebody uses telemedicine versus going to an urgent care facility or an emergency room, it saves us $517 each time. So year to date, we have had 124 visits this year. They actually give their reporting on a calendar year. And that equates to a savings of $64,000 already. And this is just based off of the August reporting.
Is this a 24/7 service?
Yeah, yes, it is. Actually, you can either schedule an appointment or you can do it on demand. The majority of our employees do use the on-demand service. It's also really proven to be very productive. If you look at, when I'm looking at the utilization report, and a lot of our employees are able to utilize this during the day. And so, it's saving us productivity in terms of people not needing to leave work in order to get treatment for minor illness or injury.
Okay. Questions for Ms. Smith? Councilmember Walsh?
Yes, I just have one question. How are you gauging the satisfaction of the patients?
Well, so Teladoc actually at the end of your visit, it'll ask you to take a survey. The city could be, our employees and retirees that are using it it's optional. So that's how, but excuse me, for the survey results that we have received, it's either very good or exceptional in terms of satisfaction. And then actually, frankly, a lot of employees just stop to tell me how much they appreciate the Teledoc service.
And this is for Chair.
Follow up. Go ahead. Yeah.
And this affects the entire family. If my child is sick, I can call up if they're on my policy.
Yes, that's correct. Every single individual that is on our healthcare, including spouses and dependents, are fully covered on this. And what's actually really nice about this particular program, the way we were able to set it up, is that there's actually no copay involved. So it's actually a zero cost to the actual employee utilizing the service. And it gets, the claim gets pulled in through our high mark. So it's really been a tremendous value. And we were excited that we already had it in place especially as COVID-19 hit. A lot of our employees, we had done a lot of work trying to engage our employees in the service. We do that, having, engagement days or open enrollment. So our employees already knew how to use it, which proved very beneficial.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from council members? Is there any questions from members of the public? I still have anybody? Okay, not seeing any. I will accept a motion to move ordinance 20041, to authorize and approve a contract between the city of Wilmington and Teladoc Health Inc. for telehealth services. This committee to the full council for a vote on the 17th of September.
Second. So moved.
Moved and seconded on the question. All the finance committee members say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith, appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have one last item, ordinance 20-043, an ordinance to amend chapter 40 of the city code to permanently add Juneteenth to city employee holidays with pay. Mr. Guy, you still with us? Is he still up there? Mr. Guy?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. This is on Juneteenth.
Correct.
Okay. So this piece of legislation, we're gonna hold this for now until somebody is able to provide information about the cost. So I'm gonna hold this.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay. That completes our agenda for this evening. I appreciate all the council members jumping on at this very busy time. And I will accept the motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you again. And thank you to all the folks in the administration also who were supplying support for us. Thank you.
Good night.